Welcome back, painting friends. Today we're going to paint a watercolor looking picture with some words on it. The words, totally your choice. You can put on whatever you want. But I'm using rainbow colors, so red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. I do have a little bit of white. And since I'm turning these into watercolors, I just need a little bit of paint. I always have my favorite 4 brushes with me. I've got my 1-inch flat brush, my 10-6, and 1 round brush. And then I always have a cup of water and a rag for keeping those brushes clean. So let's get started. Anytime I watercolor, I like my canvas to be laying flat on my table rather than on the easel, because on the easel, everything will droop down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my number 10 round brush, and I'm first just going to start by adding a little bit of water to my canvas. And this is just a 11 by 14 canvas panel. It's not a stretched canvas. But turning acrylic paints into watercolor looking paints is a favorite of mine. And if you don't have these, you could always use watercolor paper and watercolors. Totally up to you. All right, after I have that down there, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add water to your paints. We want these to look and play like watercolors, so you need to add water to them so that they do that. And then you can just add water anywhere you want. You can add paint anywhere you want. And as you see, they kind of grow these little lines because it moves on the water that's on the canvas. So I'm not going to go all the way to the edges of this, but I am just going to add a couple of spots of color of each of the rainbow colors. You're going to notice that where I started, it's going to be darker. And as I get further away, it's going to be lighter. So if you want to maybe mix some colors or blend some colors together, you would want to start further away from that color and then slowly kind of come in and connect those two. Just use your paintbrush to kind of mix the two colors together until there's this really nice seamless line going from one color to the other. So your job now is just kind of play with your colors, see what you like, see what the mixing happens, and we'll let this dry. When we come back, we are going to add in those words. With a dry background, the next thing I do is kind of decide which direction I want my canvas to go, because you have all the choices in the world. I think I like this direction. Then I have to decide what I'm going to put on it. So you can use any positive quote you want. I am going to use just breathe with a wishing flower. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will take a pencil and kind of sketch out like my words and maybe where I want things, just so I have an idea, because when I go in with Sharpie, it's a little bit harder to fix than when I go in with paint. So I want my wishing flower to be right over here. And then I want the words just breathe to be over here. And you can choose any kind of font you want. You could do simple print, totally up to you. So I am going to do a cursive, and I'm just going to kind of come down. And I'm just going to sketch the whole thing out with my pencil. And then I'll go with my Sharpie, and it's really whichever one you want to use. If you want skinnier lines, you can use a skinnier Sharpie. I like to start with my fatter Sharpie and then kind of thicken them up from there. I do find out that the Sharpie Pro does work pretty well on watercolor. And then I'll go back in and I'll fatten some of the areas up just a little bit so that it's not as boring of a text. Having that little bit of variation in your line makes your words look a lot more interesting. And then as far as my wishing flower goes, same thing. I'm just going to take my Sharpie, pull that line up. I will switch to a skinnier Sharpie for all of these little pieces that are going to come off. But I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to make a bunch of little lines that kind of pop out. And at the tip of each of these, I'm just going to make a couple little lines that kind of go off of that. And then at the top of those, I'm going to put a polka dot. I'm going to make a couple of these that are just kind of exiting the flower also. They're going to have a little bit of a thicker base to them. For the center over here, I'm just going to take my big Sharpie and kind of add some polka dots in the middle. What's going to hold all this together? It's going to be the center of that flower. So just add a bunch of polka dots in the center to kind of ground that. And there you have it. When you're finished, you got to sign it in a color that's going to show up. I'm just going to use my Sharpie right here. I always put my initials in my bottom right corner. Now remember, I never get to see what you're making at home unless you take a picture of it and post it to my Facebook page, Painting with a Purpose. Make sure that you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Painting with a Purpose, so you're kept up to date on all of my tutorials. And remember, as always, stay kind, stay creative, and stay safe. Have a great day, friends. Bye now.